Pursuant to Internal Revenue Service guidance, be advised that any federal tax advice contained in this program is not intended to be used, and it cannot be used by any person or entity for the purpose of avoiding any tax penalties that may be imposed by the Internal Revenue Service or any other U.S. federal taxing authority or agency, or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any transaction or matter addressed in this show. The opinions expressed by the host and the guests are their own and may not be used as authoritative advice. Any use of this material without the written consent of the host is strictly prohibited.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, on AM 560, The Answer. Tune in every week at 5 for an informative discussion about IRS obligations, credit card debt, mortgage default, collection activity, and how to resolve these legal issues using tax resolution, debt settlement, mortgage loan modification, foreclosure defense, and bankruptcy. Your host is Stephen Leahy, a Chicago attorney and the principal at OPM Tax Resolution and the law office of Stephen A. Leahy, PC. Stephen is the author of Deal with Your IRS Problems Today. IRS and debt issues are serious, but there is help. There are resolutions. So get ready and take notes during the IRS Radio Hour. And now, here's your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy.
Hello, Chicago. I am your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560, The Answer. We help people here with dealing with IRS problems, audits, levies, liens, garnishments, collections, and payroll tax issues. We also deal with mortgage foreclosures, loan modifications, bankruptcies, and other debt-related issues. So if you have any of these problems, or if you know someone who does, you should call my office, and my number is 312-664-6649. And if you want a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problems Today, you can call that number and request a copy of my book, and I'll send it out free. And you can get a lot of answers there. I want to introduce my co-host, Jim Leahy.
Happy 4th of July weekend, everybody. If it's Sunday at 5 o'clock, it's the IRS Radio Hour. I know this has been a long weekend. The 4th of July was Friday. We had our celebration starting Thursday night.
We always celebrate on July 3rd.
Yep, we have a family. We have family and friends over. We have hot dogs and ribs and barbecue.
I have a little hot dog stand, and I'm gonna put some pictures of the hot dog stand and our celebration on the web and on my website, chicagotaxteam.com. And
do you have a Facebook page?
I am on Facebook. It's Facebook.com/Opum Tax. And I'm not much of a Twitterer. I do tweet a lot because I put things on Twitter a lot, but I don't. I'm not one of those. No. That's the kids. The kids are doing that stuff today.
I was the first one to join, and I've never gone on. So I did it because I told my kids, "You ever heard of Twitter? No, you haven't, have you? I'm on it already." Of course, I've never tweeted anything.
I like that because
I think I had 3 people, and your son came in and goes, "He's got 3 people. I've got 60." So I've never tweeted since. I've never even tried it.
I don't even go there anymore, but I do. I do tweet, and because I put on LinkedIn, I put stuff on Twitter, I put stuff on Facebook. On my website and my blog. So there's lots of information that I try to share. And if you have any questions or if you have any problems with the IRS, especially the IRS problems or any other debt related issues, you should visit my website or give us a call. I'm always happy to take your call and answer your questions.
Well, as we said, it's the 4th of July weekend. So we like to there's certain things we do around our house. And one is I read to the kids every year Patrick Henry's Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death. I hope there's enough time in this segment, so I'd like to get started. This is from St. John's Church, Richmond, Virginia, and it was March 23rd, 1775. Mr. President, no man thinks more highly than I do of patriotism, as well as abilities of the very worthy gentleman who have just addressed the House. But different men often see the same subject in different lights, and therefore I hope it will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen, if entertaining as I do, opinions of a character very opposite to theirs. I shall speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. This is no time for ceremony. The question before the House is one of awful moment to this country. For my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery, and in proportion to the magnitude of the subject ought to be the freedom of the debate. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at truth and fulfill the great responsibility with which we hold to God and our country. Should I keep back my opinions at such a time, through fear of giving offense, I should consider myself guilty of treason towards my country, and an act of disloyalty towards the majesty of heaven, which I reserve above all things or above all earthly kings. Mr. President, it is natural to man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in the great and arduous struggle for liberty? Are we disposed to be of the numbers of those who, having eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not, the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it. I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging of the future but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the conduct of the British ministry for the last 10 years to justify these hopes to which these gentlemen have been pleased to solace themselves and the House. Is it that insidious smile with which our petition has been lately received? Trust it not, sir. It will prove a snare to your feet. Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed with a kiss. Ask yourselves how this gracious reception and our petition comports with these warlike preparations which cover our waters and darken our land. Are fleets and armies necessary to work of love and reconciliation? Have we shown ourselves so willing to be reconciled that force must be called in to win back our love? Let us not deceive ourselves, sir. These are the implements of war and subjugation, the last arguments to which kings resort. I ask, gentlemen, sir, what means this martial array, if it is purposed not to force us into submission? Can gentlemen assign any other possible motive for it? Has Great Britain any enemy in this quarter of the world to call for all this accumulation of natives and armies? No, sir, she has none. They are meant for us. They can be meant for no other. They are sent over to bind and rivet upon us those chains which the British ministry has so long been forging. And what have we to oppose them? Shall we try argument? Sir, we have been trying that for the last 10 years. Have we anything new to offer upon the subject? Nothing. We have held the subject up in every light to which it is capable, but it has all been in vain. Shall we resort to entry and humble supplication? What terms shall we find which have not already been exhausted? Let us not, I beseech you, sir, deceive ourselves. Sir, we have done nothing that could be done to avert the storm. We have done everything that could be done to avert the storm which is now coming on. We have petitioned, we have remonstrated, we have supplicated, we have prostrated ourselves before the throne, and have implored this interposition into arrest the tyrannical hands of the ministry and parliament. Our petitions have been slighted. Our reminiscences have produced additional violence and insult. Our supplications have been disregarded, and we have been spurned with contempt from the foot of the throne. In vain, after these things, we may indulge the fond hope of peace and reconciliation. There is no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, if we mean to preserve inviolate those inestimable privileges for which we have been so long contending, if we mean not basely to abandon the noble struggle in which we have been so long engaged, in which we have pledged ourselves never to abandon until the glorious object of our content shall be obtained, we must fight. I repeat, sir, we must fight and appeal to the arms of the gods of the host. And an appeal to the arms of the gods of the host is all that is left to us. They tell us, sir, we are weak, unable to cope with so formidable an adversary. But when shall we be stronger? Will it be next week or next year? Will it be when we are totally disarmed and when the British Guards shall be stationed at every house? Shall we gather strength by irresolution and inaction? Shall we acquire the means of effectual resistance by lying so blindly on our backs and hugging the delusive phantom of hope until our enemies shall have bound us hand and foot? Sir, we are not weak if we make a proper use of the means in which God's nature hath placed in our power. 3 million people armed in a holy cause of liberty in such a country as that which we possess are invincible by any force of our enemy can send against us. Besides, sir, we shall not fight our battles alone. There is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations, and who will rise up friends to fight our battles for us. The battle, sir, is not for the strong alone, it is to the vigilant, the active, the brave. Besides, sir, we have no election. If we were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat, sir, let it come. It is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. War has actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. And our brethren are already in the field. Why stand here idle? What is it that the gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
And I have nothing to add to that. That's amazing. It gives me goosebumps.
It gives me goosebumps, too.
We'll see you on the other side.
Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, a local Chicago attorney. I believe that God has given each of us unique abilities, and we are to use those abilities to help others. I have helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster. And if the IRS is threatening you with liens, levies, or garnishments, or you have years of unfiled tax returns, I want to help you. Compliance is the first step to resolving your IRS problem, and compliance begins with your 2013 taxes. Are you ready? If you call now, make an appointment, and visit my office for a free confidential consultation, we will complete your personal 2013 tax return at no charge, even if you don't hire me to resolve your IRS problem. Remember, I'm a local Chicago attorney. Investigate me. Simply Google Stephen with a V, Leahy, Leahy, reviews to find out what the Better Business Bureau and others have said. Or call me at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Call me today.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host, attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on the 4th of July edition. Okay, so we're celebrating the 4th of July. Jim just read the Patrick Henry, which is awesome. I just thought it was just incredible. Every time I hear it, it gives me goosebumps. And
me too. Like I said, it reminds me of my kids because they see me get out the book and then they start running because they don't want to hear it anymore.
Well, one day they'll be reading it.
They'll be reading it to their children.
Absolutely,
that's right.
And that's what it's all about: is passing it on, remembering why we do what we do. And again, it's the 4th of July, and Patrick Henry's great, but the greatest is the Declaration of Independence. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Declaration of Independence. We're changing our format a little bit today because I want to get this in.
This is usually the part of the show where we talk about your blog, but we're going to talk a little bit about the Declaration and some of the guys who signed it, and we're going to have a little bit of there's an article written by a famous man who's on the radio right now, Rush Limbaugh's father. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the most poignant things I've ever read.
It's a great speech, and you can find it online if you go there. You can find something online, but I want to just read a little bit of it because it's very long, and I want to be able to put into the Declaration. I think we have to, and then recognize the men who gave their lives and their treasures and their sacred honor.
Yeah, who pledged all those things.
In order for us to be where we are today. Sometimes I wonder if we haven't squandered those rights and our liberty and for what all these men did for us to bring us this freedom and liberty. And sometimes I wonder, have we given it all back?
Well, I hope not. And I think that it's important that I think that the more you start losing more liberty, I think people start realizing with this NSA stuff and this. And
the IRS scandal.
And the IRS scandal. People have to realize, we're only I keep saying it, but Ronald Reagan said that you're one generation away from tyranny. I mean, you have to be able to stand up for these rights. You have to know what your rights are first before you can claim them.
That's right. And you have to protect your rights. And that's why you need a lawyer oftentimes, because the lawyers, that's what, it seems, I'm patting myself on the back, but that's what we do. I help people reserve their freedom and their liberty, and it's important. And don't let the government come down on you and without a fight. Always fight back And that's what we do. We fight back. We help you fight back to the IRS. So, first I'm going to read a little bit about the day that they signed the Declaration of Independence. Everybody always gets that confused, right, Jim? The Declaration and
that's the preamble.
That's right. That's from our Constitution. No, Senator, that's not from the Constitution.
Yeah,
that's from the Declaration.
That was a couple weeks ago. That's right.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read this about the day that they signed. So then Congress transformed itself into a committee of the whole. The Declaration of Independence was read aloud once more and debate resumed. Though Jefferson was the best writer of all of them, he had been somewhat verbose. Congress hacked the excess away. They did a good job, as a side-by-side comparison of the rough draft and the final text shows. They cut the phrase by a self-assumed power. Climb was replaced by must read. Then must was eliminated. Then the whole sentence. And soon the whole paragraph was cut. Jefferson groaned as they continued what he later called the depredations. Inherent and inalienable rights came out, certain unalienable rights, and to this day no one knows who suggested the elegant change. A total of 86 alterations were made. Almost 500 words were eliminated, leaving 1,337. At last, after 3 days of wrangling, the document was put to a vote. Here in this hall, Patrick Henry had once thundered, "I am no longer a Virginian, sir, but an American." But today the loud, sometimes bitter arguments stilled, and without fanfare the vote was taken from north to south by colonies, as was the custom on July 4th, 1776. The Declaration of Independence was adopted. I mean, it's just amazing that story. So now if we just talk about the Declaration of Independence, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and the nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its power in such form as to them shall seem more likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate the governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having a direct object, the establishment of the absolute tyranny or tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. And then he goes on to list these things about why they did what they did. Why are they separating themselves from the government of the England? Mm-hmm. I just want to go read the last several sentences because it's important.
We therefore, yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
No, go ahead.
We therefore,
the representatives of the United States of America and General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiances to the British Crown, that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that, as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm and reliance on the protection of a divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And John Hancock was the president and the first to sign.
Amazing.
Now we want to go into, well, we do want to name the guys.
56 men signed the Declaration of Independence.
Start with the New Hampshire.
No, I don't think we're going to have time on this segment, so we should probably do it in the next segment.
Okay.
But I do want to recognize them because I think so often we forget what it took to make this country and what it takes to continue this country. And as he mentioned in the Declaration about how we all, that the governed will suffer lots before they'll do anything about it.
Yeah, most people. Yeah, you have to go a long way before people go to the extremes of getting rid of something that they're used to, and that's what they're trying to say.
That's all about what the Tea Party's all about. I wouldn't call myself a Tea Partier. I am in the sense that I'm a liberty and freedom, and
that's all the Tea Party is.
That's what the Tea Party is all about.
I don't believe that. It's not Republican. It's not Democrat. What they care about is the rights and freedoms that we have we grew up with, and I never realized how close they actually were to losing them. You never pictured it.
I know. I think back when I was a kid and think, this will never change.
Yeah,
and it has changed.
And it has changed. It's changed.
And it's changing more.
That's right. How can people get in touch with you, Steve?
They should call me at 312-664-6649. Join us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Send me a question at questions@irsradiohour.com.
Every Sunday night.
We're here every Sunday night.
At 5 o'clock.
That's right.
On AM 560.
The answer. That's right. This is the IRS Radio Hour, and join us on the other side.
Happy 4th of July,
Happy 4th of July.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, and for me, success comes when I help other people. That's why I became an attorney. I know the economy has taken a financial toll on many families and businesses, but I believe that they can recover from their financial problems if they just get the right help. I'm here in Chicago, and I know that if people improve their financial situation, they improve their lives, and I want to help. If the IRS is attacking you with liens, levies, or garnishments, if your mortgage company has threatened foreclosure, or collectors' calls are driving you mad, you need help. We listen to your financial situation, find out what's really going on, and develop a workable solution. Remember, I'm right here in Chicago, and your first visit is completely free and confidential. I will tell you on the spot what can be done and what it will cost. If you are looking for help, you've come to the right place. Call me, Stephen Leahy, at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Or visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Call me today.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy on AM 560, The Answer. Attorney Stephen Leahy brings his passion and expertise to your radio each and every week during the IRS Radio Hour. Tune in, take notes, and be educated. Learn your options resolving financial obstacles that face so many. And now, back to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host, attorney Stephen Leahy. The last several segments we read the Declaration, some of the Declaration of Independence. We read Patrick Henry's. This is generally our IRS.
This is usually the part where we go into our IRS saga
as the IRS turns.
But this week, we're not going to do that. I had to use the voice again.
But last week we did talk about the IRS saga, and there's lots going on now. It's not a busy week in Congress this week.
4th of July week.
And
as what was his name, Will Rogers would say, the country is safe. Congress is on recess.
That's right. I think I wanted to go back, though, to the Declaration because obviously that's why we're here. The 4th of July is about Independence Day and the Declaration of Independence. And so we want to recognize the 56 men who actually signed the Declaration and made it possible, because without their bravery, and I love that last line, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Yeah, because none of these guys were radical bomb throwers or anything. No. These guys were all business guys and lawyers, and there's a couple of different.
I think people were more eloquent back then. I have to say, Patrick Henry was nobody more eloquent except for maybe Thomas Jefferson.
Well, it reminds me. I remember watching Henry Hyde speak, and I was thinking, there are only certain guys now who could get onto the floor of the Congress and make it seem like I got to listen to this. This seems to be important, no matter what he's saying. And
so let's start. I'm going to talk about we're going to go through the columns, or column, as I like to say. My boys will like that. From Georgia. Button Gwinnett, Lyman Hall, George Walton. From North Carolina, William Hooper, Joseph Hughes, John Penn. From South Carolina, Edward Rutledge, Thomas Hayward Jr., Thomas Lynch Jr., Arthur Middleton. From Massachusetts, John Hancock.
Right in the middle.
From Maryland, James Chase, William Pecka, Thomas Stone, Charles Carroll of Carrollton. From Virginia, George Wythe, Richard Henry Lee, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Harrison, Thomas Nelson Jr., Francis Lightfoot Lee, Carter Braxton.
Column 4 would be Pennsylvania, Robert Morris, Benjamin Rush, Benjamin Franklin, John Morton, George Clymer, James Smith, George Taylor, James Wilson, George Ross. From Delaware, Caesar Rodney, George Reed, Thomas McKeon. In the 5th column, from New York, William Floyd, Philip Livingston, Francis Lewis, Lewis Morris. From New Jersey, Richard Stockton, John Witherspoon, Francis Hopkinson, John Hart, and Abraham Clark. In the 6th and final column, from New Hampshire, Joshua Bartlett, William Whipple. From Massachusetts, Samuel Adams, John Adams, Robert Treat Payne, Elbridge Gerry. From Rhode Island, Stephen Hopkins, William Ellery. From Connecticut, Roger Sherman, Samuel Huntington, William Williams, Oliver Wolcott. And finally, from New Hampshire, Matthew Thornton.
It's amazing. You know what? The first thing you notice when you read these names is how some of the fathers are not there. George Washington isn't there.
No, Patrick Henry's not there,
so some big names who aren't there.
Paul Revere. Yeah, well, they were in other places at the time. No, the revolution was going on.
I understand, but these are our founders also. They just don't get the recognition as some of the more famous.
What did they say about John Hancock? That they had such a big price on his head that he wrote his name first and in big letters, so that it would double the price on his head.
That's right.
And I think he was one of the richest men in the United States at the time. So these people weren't just, they were risking everything for freedom.
Everything. Absolutely.
Like it said in what we were reading, people just don't go off and change the role of change their government. They had, these guys were hardly any of them were old. I think Ben Franklin was the oldest. Most of them were in their 30s and late 20s. There were businessmen, there were lawyers, there were a couple of doctors. Most of these guys became senators and governors and helped shape the country. So this is just a.
So we owe them a lot.
We owe them. We owe them everything.
We do owe them everything, and I wanted to make sure that we recognize them today, the 4th of July, right after the 4th of July, and that this is probably the best American holiday, right?
Of course it is.
So. You can visit me on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. It's an American. I'm an American lawyer, right here in Chicago. So, 312-664-6649 here on AM 560, The Answer.
Happy 228th birthday, America. We'll see you guys on the other side.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, a local Chicago attorney. I believe that God has given each of us unique abilities, and we are to use those abilities to help others. I have helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster. And if the IRS is threatening you with liens, levies, or garnishments, or you have years of unfiled tax returns, I want to help you. Compliance is the first step to resolving your IRS problem, and compliance begins with your 2013 taxes. Are you ready? If you call now, make an appointment, and visit my office for a free confidential consultation, we will complete your personal 2013 tax return at no charge, even if you don't hire me to resolve your IRS problem. Remember, I'm a local Chicago attorney. Investigate me. Simply Google Stephen with a V, Leahy, Leahy, reviews to find out what the Better Business Bureau and others have said. Or call me at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Call me today.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host, attorney Stephen Leahy. This is AM 560 The Answer, and you're listening to the IRS Radio Hour. So
on a special back. July 4th edition.
It is a special.
I know it's not the 4th, but we're celebrating it anyway. It's that important.
And I'm celebrating all weekend.
That's right. We're celebrating all weekend.
So we always celebrate on the 3rd of July. So I have the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th. So
we start barbecuing on the 3rd, and barbecue all the way until the end of the weekends.
That's right. So,
which is awful tough when it's on a Monday.
It is. But we do it anyway.
By the end of the week, the kids hate ribs
and hot dogs, because I have my hot dog stand out and they come out and have hot dogs. But I wanted to talk about I did write a blog this week. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the blog post.
And what's the blog about?
The blog is about tax protesters. And I get the question, do I have to file a tax return? Because a lot of people think, many of my clients are what we call non-filers. And non-filers are people who just haven't filed for some time. Mm-hmm. They don't have a political agenda or some reason why they didn't. They're not protesting the government. They just haven't filed for some reason or another. And so one of the things that we try to do is get them in compliance, which is file their tax returns. But there is a group of people out there they call tax protesters.
Yes, there are.
Who take the position. Again, it's this kind of appropriate for the 4th of July because they drape themselves in the flag and say, the IRS is illegal. It's
the 16th Amendment was never truly ratified.
That's one of the arguments. Actually, the arguments can be put into two different categories. The first category is really interpretation. So they interpret some statute, or they interpret some Supreme Court decisions in such a narrow way that it sounds like they're saying that I don't have to file. So, for instance, you always hear that, filing taxes is voluntary. And this comes from a Supreme Court decision where they said that Americans voluntarily file. But they weren't saying that it's voluntary that you don't have to file. What they were saying was that people voluntarily do it.
Yeah, what we say every week.
That's right.
We use the 85% for the good, and the IRS use the 85% to beat up on the rest of us.
That's right. So it's so if you read that and you say, it's voluntary. So if I don't volunteer, does that mean I don't have to file? And the answer is no. You still have to file. Another good one is taxpayer. Because the IRS code talks about taxpayers. And they say, well, if I don't file and I don't pay taxes, well, then I'm not a taxpayer. And if I'm not a taxpayer, then this whole code doesn't really pertain to me. I don't have to file. It's all voluntary. And again, these
are people who speak to you from jail today.
That's right. That's right. And the most famous probably is Wesley Snipes.
He fell for it.
Who just got out of jail. And the gentlemen who were putting this forth and talked him into taking this position I'm sure he regrets it. He spent 3 years in prison.
And millions of dollars in fees.
And paying his taxes because he had to pay his back taxes anyway. So, it's not like he got out of his taxes. The other type of argument that you hear is constitutional. So, they say the Constitution forbids it. So, for instance, they can argue that the First Amendment is I have a religious objection to filing my tax returns. And so the First Amendment allows me not to do that. They come up with the Fifth Amendment argument. It's self-incrimination. I don't have to incriminate myself, and so I don't have to file a tax return under the Fifth Amendment. Another one is the 13th Amendment. It's a slavery. So they say if I have to give you money,
if I'm working for the government,
if I have to give you my money, then that's slavery, and I have to. And the 13th Amendment forbids that. And then finally, the 16th Amendment, and this is the big one because people say it wasn't ratified correctly. And so the 16th Amendment is the amendment that everybody points to. Matter of fact, I heard it in Congress last week or 2 weeks ago that one of the congressmen was, we're going to start repealing the 16th Amendment. So if we repeal the 16th Amendment, then they won't be able to have the IRS. I don't think that's true. I don't think the 16th Amendment is what created the right to tax income, but there are those arguments, and people do say that. And but there were some variations in some of the ratification from different states that ratified the 16th Amendment. Now, all of these arguments are
specious, to say the least.
They've always been. All courts have said they're frivolous, and they don't even listen to them.
That's specious.
And so you can subscribe to them, but
you're going to jail.
That's right. The law is what the law is. People don't recognize or realize that if you don't file your tax return, it's just not filing is 1 year, up to 1 year in prison for each year you didn't file, and that's just a misdemeanor. So then they can get you for evasion of taxes and fraudulent tax forms and all of this other that are much more serious and carry a much more prison sentence. And so, join Wesley Snipes in paying your taxes and filing on time, because he does that now. He files it. He just got it. I just was reading when I was reading up on this that he's in a new movie, so he's landing on his feet.
And they're take that money out before you pay me, please.
Right.
Give me a W-2.
Yeah, I think he's still paying, so they're probably levying his wages.
That's true.
So before you pay him, you
pay me $1. That's right. And then feed me and house me.
And
for
he
nothing.
spent millions on
legal fees.
But you don't have to spend millions on lawyers.
No,
you can hire.
Who could they hire?
That's right. You can hire me
for under millions.
That's under $1 million. You can hire me, and you can call me at 312-664-6649. You can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. You can send me a question at questions@irsradiohour.com.
You can watch the podcasts, or now you can watch them.
That's right. We have a video. We'll talk about that. So see you on the other side.
Happy 4th of July.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, and for me, success comes when I help other people. That's why I became an attorney. I know the economy has taken a financial toll on many families and businesses, but I believe that they can recover from their financial problems if they just get the right help. I'm here in Chicago, and I know that if people improve their financial situation, they improve their lives, and I want to help. If the IRS is attacking you with liens, levies, or garnishments, if your mortgage company has threatened foreclosure, or collectors' calls are driving you mad, you need help. We listen to your financial situation, find out what's really going on, and develop a workable solution. Remember, I'm right here in Chicago, and your first visit is completely free and confidential. I will tell you on the spot what can be done and what it will cost. If you are looking for help, you've come to the right place. Call me, Stephen Leahy, at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Or visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Call me today.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy on AM 560, The Answer. Attorney Stephen Leahy brings his passion and expertise to your radio each and every week during the IRS Radio Hour. Tune in, take notes, and be educated. Learn your options resolving financial obstacles that face so many. And now, back to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour, and I am your host, attorney Stephen Leahy. And welcome back. We talked about the Declaration. We talked about Patrick Henry. We read the names of the men who gave their lives in many cases, and
or the men who risked everything.
They risked everything. That's correct, and I agree with that. we wanted to, again, say happy 4th of July.
Oh, there you are, cutting it.
Jim does it every time. I keep forgetting, so I don't want to forget.
What birthday is it, Steve?
What do you mean?
It's the 228th birthday.
Okay. I didn't see. I was going to say, of the Independence Day, Jim, it's America's birthday.
Well, there's a number there.
No, we were just playing soccer close to American's birthday. Why do we do that?
I don't know. Let's not talk about that.
Okay, I forgot we were.
Debbie's a soccer fan.
That's right. I forgot about that.
She'll cut this whole thing out.
We got to keep her happy because she does such a great job for us.
She does. She does a great job.
I always forget to thank her, but I don't want to forget to thank her because she does a great job for us, and we thank her very much. So I want to read one thing, one last thing before we go, and it's these men knew. Now we're talking about the men who fought. These men that we just read, the 56 names. They signed the Declaration of Independence, and this is from Rush Limbaugh's dad's speech. So these men knew what they risked. The penalty for treason was death by hanging. And remember, a great British fleet was already at anchor in New York Harbor. They were sober men. They were not dreamy-eyed intellectuals or draft card burners here. They were far from hot-eyed fanatics yammering for an explosion. They simply asked for the status quo. It was change they resisted. It was equality with the mother country they desired. It was taxation with representation they sought. They were all conservatives, yet they rebelled. Oh, very well put. Very well done.
It is, and it's important that people realize. You say rebellion or rebels, and you think of these people. They went, as Patrick Henry's speech said, we've gone through 10 years of begging. How much begging can you do? It's time that also, if you go back and it's very important to go back and read a lot of the materials from back then because they knew what they were doing. They knew that this country was going to be filled from sea to shining sea.
Hey, they wrote a song like that.
Yeah, they did. God bless America.
And so they wrote a song like that.
Yeah, and so they knew, as Patrick Henry said, with the kind of land that we have, there's no way that anybody could come over here, and they saw what was going to be the giant, and the way that the world should go, and that was freedom.
Happy 4th of July. We're going to go back to our regular format. We're not going to talk about the 4th of July next week.
No, we won't.
Okay,
but we will go into the history of the IRS Bill of Rights, as we promised a couple weeks ago.
And we'll talk about other IRS problems because that's what we do here. We try to solve. We try to help people solve their IRS problems.
We're going to go back to the normal format. You're right. And Steve, if it's Sunday at 5:00. And we're on AM 560, The Answer. How could people get in touch with you?
You should call me at 312-664-6649. You can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. And you can even see the show now because we have video of the show. I believe it's up on the web. And if you go to our website at chicagotaxteam.com, hit the IRS Radio Hour link, and you can see the show. You can listen to the show.
You can download podcasts of it at AM 560 The Answer's website.
That's right. So now next week we want you to join us here again at AM 560 The Answer.
And we hope you guys all enjoyed the little history lesson. And God bless America and happy birthday. And
I'll be
go ahead,
to
Steve.
The show.
Say it.
What, happy birthday, America. Happy 4th of July.
That's right.
Okay.
That's your turn.
I didn't forget. And thanks, Debbie, and thanks to the listeners. See you next week.